extermination of diverse life forms and ecosystems, but currently they are facing a major threat, which is harmful human activities. Although technological advancements have improved our lives in many ways, on the other hand, they are also the cause of many large-scale disasters, not only leaving devastating consequences for nature, but also causing human losses and infrastructure destruction. That's video, left. The deadliest building collapse in modern history. On April 24, 2013, in Sabah, a suburb near Dhaka, the capital of Bangladesh, an 8-story building collapsed, killing at least 1,127 people and injuring 2,500 others. This area included 5 garment factories, 1 bank, many shopping stores and apartments, while the ground floor was the Rana Plaza shopping center. According to reports, one day before the disaster, large cracks were noticed inside the building. While the stores and bank on the lower floors decided to close immediately, the owners of the garment factories on the upper floors ignored the warnings and forced workers to return to work the next day. Additionally, according to Bangladeshi authorities, the building owner had illegally added floors and allowed factories to install heavy equipment that exceeded design standards. All of this led to the unwanted incident at 8:54 a.m. on April 24, when a loud explosion occurred on the top floor and quickly spread throughout Rana Plaza. Thousands of workers tried to jump from their positions to find an escape, but in less than 3 minutes the building almost completely collapsed, leaving only the ground floor intact. This is considered one of the deadliest structural failures in modern history, and also the bloodiest industrial accident in Bangladesh. After the incident, building owner Subhil Rana and the factory owners were arrested, with a total of 41 defendants facing related charges. However, 35 people, including Rana, appeared in court and pleaded not guilty. The collapse of Rana Plaza was a major stain on Bangladesh's garment industry, leading to widespread protests calling for the government to implement better safety standards for workers. In this context, the state passed a new law requiring all garment factories to be inspected by a government agency. Additionally, Bangladesh's Minister of Textiles Abdul Latif Siddique stated they had established a committee to increase the minimum wage for over 3 million garment workers. However, to this day, the workers and relatives of those unfortunate victims have not been able to find justice. Even after 11 years have passed, the legal proceedings have not concluded, and the conditions of workers in the textile industry The Benxihu colliery line is located in Benxi, Liaoning, China, first mined in 1905. Initially, this was an iron and coal mining project jointly controlled by Japan and China. But over time, the project gradually shifted to Japanese. During the Second Sino-Japanese War, the Japanese forced Chinese laborers to mine coal under conditions of food scarcity, inadequate clothing, with diseases like typhoid and cholera. Not stopping there, supervisors also beat workers with pickaxe handles, pushing miners to work 12-hour shifts alone. Therefore, many describe the working conditions here as no different from slave labor. On April 26, 1942, a gas and coal dust explosion in the mine caused flames to erupt. At the same time, Japanese supervisors attempted to contain the fire by shutting off the ventilation system and sealing the pit entrance, but they did not fully evacuate workers from the danger. This caused many people to become trapped underground and suffocate in the snow. It took 10 days to clear all the bodies and debris from the mine. The saddest part is that the victims were buried in a mass grave nearby and many bodies could not be accurately identified due to extensive burns. Initially, the Japanese reported 34 deaths, but the actual number reached 1,549 people, with 34% being miners working that day. Among these, there were 31 Japanese and 1,518 Chinese. It can be said this was the worst disaster in coal mining history, and the pain lasted even longer because after the war ended, the Soviet Union reinvestigated the accident and discovered most deaths were due to carbon monoxide poisoning, caused by the Japanese shutting off the ventilation system and sealing the entrance after the explosion occurred. The largest ship explosion in world history. Before the atomic bomb was created, the world witnessed a catastrophic ship explosion with destructive power equivalent to nearly 3,000 tons. This event is considered the largest human-caused explosion before 1945. That is, before the US dropped nuclear bombs on 2 Japanese cities. Specifically, on the morning of December 6, 1917, the Norwegian cargo ship named SS Elo left Halifax Harbor en route to New York City. At the same time, the French ship SS Mont Blanc was also preparing to return to France and was fully loaded with explosives. To leave the harbor, both ships had to pass through a narrow channel. But at 8:45 a.m., due to being late and moving in the wrong lane, the Elo refused to yield and collided with the Mont Blanc, causing over 2,000 tons of picric acid to ignite. At this point, the crew quickly tugged ashore and desperately warned of the danger from the ship about to explode. However, many people still gathered along the harbor to witness the fierce fire. The Halifax Fire Department responded quickly to extinguish the fire, but while they were still trying to get their vehicles to the nearest water source, the Mont Blanc exploded at 9:05 a.m., causing the water around the ship to vaporize and creating waves over 15 meters high that crashed with the sea. The estimated temperature at the moment of explosion exceeded 5,000 degrees Celsius, and the shockwave from the explosion simultaneously leveling the Richmond residential area, while its sound could be heard hundreds of miles away. This disaster killed over 1,800 people, injured 9,000 others including 200 who were blinded, and destroyed approximately 1,006. Reconstruction efforts began immediately with clearing debris, repairing buildings, and establishing temporary housing for survivors. But due to the catastrophic consequences, by January 1918, about 5,000 people still had no shelter. Mercury poisoning in Minamata Bay. In human history and Japanese history, a terrible disaster occurred caused by mercury. From 1932 to 1968, the Shizo chemical plant discharged 600 tons of mercury into Minamata Bay. This plant used mercury to produce acetaldehyde, a component in many plastics. The toxins, when spilled into the sea, accumulated in ocean organisms and eventually poisoned people who consumed them. Not only affecting humans, this poisoning also caused mass deaths of cats and crows. Mad cat disease. By 1954, the Kumamoto newspaper first warned about the phenomenon of mass cat deaths. On November 12, 1959, the Minamata Food Poisoning Subcommittee of Japan's Ministry of Health and Welfare announced results that Minamata disease is a poisoning disease mainly affecting the central nervous system and caused by consuming large amounts of fat, as well as shellfish living in Minamata Bay and surrounding area. The main harmful agent was identified as a certain organic mercury compound. Symptoms of this disease include loss of coordination, limb tremors due to muscle weakness, loss of hearing ability, and difficulty speaking. Severe cases could lead to insanity, paralysis, coma, and ultimately death within weeks of the first symptoms. Additionally, a congenital abnormal form of the disease could affect fetuses in them. While deaths of dogs, cats, pigs, and people occurred continuously for 36 years, the government and company took very little action in pollution prevention. By 1968, Japan confirmed that the cause of Minamata disease was due to the Shizo company. As of March 2001, 2,265 victims were officially confirmed to have Minamata disease, of which 1,784 had died and about over 10,000 people received economic compensation from Shizo. By 2004, the corporation had paid $86 million in compensation and had to improve the entire affected area. However, the consequences of this tragedy were immeasurable, as it severely impacted the health of thousands of people in subsequent years. The Great Smog of London. Fog had long been an inseparable part of London, but not many knew about the Great Smog of 1952. This event claimed 12,000 lives, and it took over 60 years for its mystery to be decoded. On December 5, 1952, when London's capital was crowded with shoppers preparing for Christmas and the New Year, a thick smog appeared, limiting people's visibility. In the Isle of Dogs area, the fog was so dense that people couldn't see their feet, and it had a terrible smell like rotten eggs. Initially, people didn't pay much attention because London was famous for fog. They considered it bad weather and thought the smell would quickly disappear. But that wasn't the case. On the morning of December 6th, London woke up to even thicker smog and a more terrible smell. By December 7th, the phenomenon remained dense. The air became heavy and caused difficulty breathing when outdoors. People with lung problems had to go to the hospital due to symptoms of difficulty breathing or prolonged coughing. By December 9, the smog began to disperse quickly after weather changes, but by then over 150,000 people had been hospitalized and over 12,000 had died. Most unfortunate patients suffered from respiratory infections, oxygen deficiency, and lung. At that time, no expert identified what caused the fog. They only speculated that there was a very toxic substance. Later, an academic paper in the medical field was published in the 2000s to accurately describe the cause of the 1952 fog and its health impacts. Accordingly, during November to December, the cold weather period led Londoners to burn large amounts of coal indoors for heating. Moreover, there was a wind inversion carrying countless smoke from industrial areas and vehicles, all forming a dense fog layer, with smoke dust concentrations 10 times normal. Additionally, SO2 concentrations were 6 times higher, especially iron-free oxide in smoke reacting with CO2 in the air to form H2SO4 droplets, which condensed. This entire process made London's air toxic, causing heavy human losses. Not to mention long-term fetuses or children born during the Great Fog period had lower intelligence and poorer respiratory health compared to their peers. Thus, this Great Smog is considered the worst air pollution event in UK history, with huge impacts on environmental research, government regulations, and raising public awareness about the relationship between air quality and health. To avoid history repeating, the UK implemented several changes including the Clean Air Acts of 1956 and 1968, thereby widely using central heating systems and switching to smokeless fuels. The MV La Foula ferry disaster. September 26, 2002, was a forgettable milestone in world maritime history when witnessing another terrible disaster in Senegal. It was the sinking of the ferry MV La Foula off the coast of Gambia, claiming at least 1,800 lives. The ship departed from the Ziguinchor shore area in the Casamance region to the capital Dakar of Senegal when it encountered a severe storm. Due to rough seas and strong winds, it quickly rocked and capsized, throwing thousands of passengers and large amounts of cargo into the sea. The accident happened in less than. Notably, although the Foula was designed to carry a maximum of 580 people, an estimated 2,000 passengers were on board, 4 times its design capacity. Before official rescue teams arrived, local people quickly used their small boats to rescue survivors swimming or clinging to floating objects at sea. As rescue teams didn't. The Sula ship capsized but remained afloat until around 3 p.m. on September 27, then finally sank into the sea, taking with it those unable to escape the ill-fated vessel. Ultimately, only about among nearly 700 female passengers, only one pregnant woman was rescued alive. The salvage team dived to explore the accident area but found no survivors, only many human remains. A total of 551 bodies were recovered, while many other victims remain. Despite investigations by the Senegalese government and even French authorities following the deaths of 18 of their citizens, the exact cause of the incident was not revealed until 2020. It revealed many mistakes contributing to the tragedy, including the ship sailing without a maritime license, the crew not consulting weather forecasters before departure, and the captain frequently failing to ensure proper balance for the ship. Additionally, there were underlying factors such as engine failure, navigation errors, adverse weather conditions, inadequate maintenance, and overloading. As maritime industry in particular in the world. According to the New York Times, this is the second worst accident in civil maritime history in terms of human casualties. It ranks only after the Donna Pass ferry incident in 1987, with an estimated death toll of over 4. Thus, this disaster was even more horrific than the sinking of the RMS Titanic in 1912, which held 1,517 people. The Deepwater Horizon disaster. Deepwater Horizon was a semi-submersible offshore drilling rig capable of operating in waters up to 3,000 meters deep and owned by Transocean. The rig operated under the Marshall Islands flag for convenience and was leased by BP from March 2008 to September 2013. On April 20, 2010, while drilling in the Gulf of Mexico, high-pressure methane gas from the well expanded and rose from the rig, where it ignited and exploded. This caused the entire rig to burst into a massive fireball visible from up to 64 kilometers away. The explosion and fire also caused the Deepwater Horizon to sink and resulted in the deaths of 11 workers, while injuring 17 others. Not only causing human losses, the incident also left severe environmental consequences. For over 80 days following, the world could only helplessly watch as oil spilled into one of the planet's most biodiverse marine areas. It is estimated that the Deepwater Horizon disaster released 12 times more oil than the Exxon Valdez spill in 1989. It is also considered the largest marine oil spill in the world and the biggest environmental disaster in U.S. history. Following this incident, the Obama administration established a commission to investigate, concluding that there were many safety assurance failures. Specifically, when a technician was probing heat in the Gulf of Mexico, a sudden burst of gas shot. However, due to a technical fault, the emergency system designed to seal the well did not activate, allowing oil and gas to reach the rig and cause the hazardous. It can be seen that with technological advances, drilling rigs are drilling deeper, thereby unlocking larger untapped oil reserves. This encourages more contractors to extract crude oil in the Gulf of Mexico. But the deeper they go, the higher the risks become. A 2013 study indicated that for every additional 30 meters drilled, the probability of incidents like oil spills or serious accidents increases by 8.5%. The Deepwater Horizon incident left painful consequences for both humans and wildlife. The massive oil spill drifted to the coasts of Texas and Florida, leading to the deaths of tens of thousands of hectares. Some studies also show that with the drastic changes in the marine ecological community, it will take decades to recover. Nevertheless, this has not been enough to wake oil companies do, and the severe consequences of oil extraction will continue to. On April 26, 1986, the worst disaster in the history of the nuclear energy occurred in northern Ukraine when a reactor at the Chernobyl plant exploded. At that time, this area was still part of the Soviet Union, and it became the costliest disaster in human history, with an estimated cost of $700 billion. Seconds before the incident, the temperature inside the core of reactor number 4 of the plant reached 4,650, nearly equal to the surface temperature of the. Previously, this reactor contained between 180 to 190 tons of nuclear fuel. When the reactor exploded, its force was equivalent to 66 tons of TN and could completely blow away a 20-story building. This explosion released 28 tons of radioactive material from the reactor, then infiltrated the atmosphere. In an instant, the world realized that Chernobyl was one of the most terrifying disasters in human history. In the current atmosphere, more than 30% of the hundreds of tons of uranium remaining after the disaster started. Immediately after the incident, the 10 kilometers exclusion zone was established, and initially evacuated about 49. The exclusion zone was later expanded to 30 kilometers, leading to the evacuation of approximately. Due to the lack of containment walls, the radioactive dust cloud from the plant spread widely to many Eastern and Western Europe, and even reached the eastern United States. Among these, vast areas of Ukraine, Belarus, and Russia were most severely contaminated, forcing 336,000 people to evacuate and resettle. Among the 237 workers hospitalized, 134 showed symptoms of acute radiation syndrome, and 28 of them died within 3 months. By 2006, the World Health Organization estimated 9,000 cancer-related deaths, along with approximately 600,000 people exposed to high levels of radiation. In addition, over 5 million hectares of agricultural land in areas within a 30 kilometers radius around the nuclear power plant were taken out, while hundreds of small settlements along with mechanical transport vehicles and personal cars were buried. There are many hypotheses about the cause of the explosion, but the tragedy occurred due to a sudden power surge in the reactor. The International Nuclear Safety Advisory Group also produced 2 reports, and both determined that workers violated safety procedures during testing. Additionally, the plant also failed in management and operation. This disaster is considered the largest accident in the history of nuclear energy, in terms of casualties, economic damage, and long-term consequences. Located in western Saudi Arabia, Mecca is known as the holy city of Islam, and the site of the important Hajj pilgrimage. This is a mandatory duty to perform at least once in a life for adult Muslims who are physically and financially capable. With over 10.8 million international visitors in 2020, Mecca is one of the top 10 most visited cities in the world. However, on September 24, 2015, this sacred city suddenly became the deadliest when thousands of pilgrims trampled each other on the way to the Jamarat Bridge to prepare for the Hajj stoning ritual. Specifically, a group of pilgrims in this area collided with another group moving in the opposite direction, leading to a disaster. Although authorities deployed over 200 ambulances, 4,000 rescue personnel to the scene, and mobilized 100,000 police to ensure security, the consequences of the incident remained devastating. According to local government estimates reported 2 days later, there were about 769 deaths and 934 injuries. However, this figure was controversial because the actual death toll could have exceeded 2,000. According to media sources from Iran, the death toll should have been 4,100. Among these, the countries with the highest number of victims were Iran, Mali, and Nigeria. To date, this report has not been updated. Notably, senior Islamic religious and legal authorities in Saudi Arabia even declared that the incident was beyond human control and unavoidable because it was caused by fate. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs announced it would summon Saudi Arabia. But Saudi Arabia's health minister asserted that the crowd of pilgrims themselves were responsible because they did not comply with the regulations issued by the authority, while many witnesses reported that the 2015 Hajj was quite chaotic and disorderly. Even many people in the Jamarat area had fainted before the stampede occurred. The most devastating industrial disaster. Nearly 40 years ago, the toxic gas leak at Bhopal, India caused 2,260 immediate deaths, and its devastating scale continues to haunt humanity to this day. Going back to 1984, December 3rd became fateful when over 40 tons of toxic methyl isos at the Union Carbide India Limited pesticide plant, abbreviated as UCIL, located in the suburbs of Bhopal in India's Madhya Pradesh state, leaked and quickly spread with the wind. Subsequently, the toxic gas spread throughout Bhopal city and caused panic among residents as they woke up with a burning sensation. Victims exposed to the toxic gas also writhed in pain, with burning eyes, foaming at the mouth, and eye after severe vomiting. According to Amnesty International, approximately 7,000 people died in the following 3 days and countless others lived. But this was only the beginning of the nightmare, as in the 30 years following, approximately 30,000 deaths in the area were believed to be related to this act. The Indian government also confirmed at least 500,000 people were poisoned. According to investigations by authorities, the main causes leading to this horrific disaster were maintenance issues and lax safety regulations from Union Carbide Corporation and the Indian government. To this day, many victims of the accident continue to fight for justice. In 1989, Union Carbide agreed to pay $470 million to those affected by the plant leak. While activists still strive to call for higher compensation, but this is an extremely difficult battle. After decades, hundreds of tons of toxic chemicals left at the plant, UCIL continued to cause leaks and contaminate the area's groundwater, affecting thousands of residents living in Patna. According to environmental activists, to this day tens of thousands of people still have, while hundreds of children are born with brain damage and congenital. In addition, many people suffer from anemia, delayed puberty and skin diseases. And above are the top 10 man-made disasters. Goodbye and see you in the next videos.